Thank you. Yasha, I just want to confirm once if my voice is audible. Alright, great. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to welcome Tanisha Kariappa, who is working as a data analyst at Bidgely. Hi Tanisha, how are you doing today?
Hi, Siddhi. I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, great. Tanisha, would you like to start with telling us something about yourself and your journey so far?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. I'm Tanisha. I did my engineering in BMS and I actually did my BE in telecom. And I understood why I didn't want to continue the career in telecom. I knew that I didn't want that. So I wanted to be a data analyst in my final year of engineering. I had read about it and I was interested in it. So that's how I became a data analyst right now. So yeah.
That is great. Would you like to actually tell us how a data analyst, what is the job of a data analyst?
Sure. Basically, what I do is that right now I'm working in an energy consumption sort of a company. So what Bidgely does is that it takes data from, like, for example, if you live in if you live in Bangalore, you have Bescom as your energy provider, right? So the electricity that you get to your homes is from Bescom, which is a utility provider. So it has data from all the homes in Bangalore. So what we at Bidgely do is that we take the data and then we analyze it. We basically tell you which appliance is consuming how much energy. So for example, if your fan is taking more energy or your AC is put up, so we have these monthly alerts to show that okay, so this appliance is taking up more than the other appliance, which helps you in being more energy efficient and also cut back your savings. As a data analyst, what I do is that I get the data from all these homes and I analyze the data. So we get the meter data from your house and then we clean the data and prep it. So one of the most underrated skills to have as a data analyst is the data cleaning, the data preparation, and all of that. That's why data engineers is one of the most looked for profile right now with the market. So we clean the data, we prepare the data, and then we analyze it. So when we analyze the data, we use visualization software like Tableau and like Power BI, and we use that software to get insights from the data, and then we show it to our board and say that okay, so this is the analysis that we did. So that is what I do in Bidgely right now.
That's great. I totally agree with the point where you said that the need for data engineers is increasing day by day, and it's such an underestimated yet important job.
Yeah.
So, tech stacks do you usually use?
So I have this other belief, right? So like the tech stacks differ from company to company. My previous company that was user ready, we use a lot of Google products, and right now we are all about like AWS. So the tech stacks keep changing, but if you understand the logic behind it, and if you understand like the data, and you understand you have that problem solving skills, right? It doesn't matter which tech stack you use. So for data engineering in general, we just use Python and then we use a lot of AWS. So those are what I'm currently working with. But yeah, so like I said, the you need to understand the logic behind it, and then once you understand the logic behind it, you use any sort of technology that is out there like Hadoop or Spark or whatever, and you use that and then you create a project. So that kind of helps you go into data engineering role. Like if you have a lot of projects, it shows companies that you understand the whole process behind it, and then you are free to use any tech stack you want. So you shouldn't depend upon the tech stack is my suggestion.
That's a great suggestion actually, because as you said that it definitely differs from company to company, and what matters is the logic behind it, because the logic will remain same over all the languages we use, and that is the main important thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, I would like to actually know the beginning of your journey. That is, when did you actually start programming?
Right. So, I was honestly intimidated with the whole programming thing in college. That's why I did not pay much attention to it. And I knew from doing my undergrad in telecom that it was like a process of elimination. So I knew that I didn't want to get into telecom. The only other subject that I was interested in was networking, and so that was something that I was interested in. But apart from that, I was interested in data analysis, right? So for data analysis, some of the things that are common and that are same irrespective of the tech stacks would be SQL and Python. So I started learning actually in my first job, and from there on I started picking up like different tools like Tableau and Power BI and like Looker and stuff like that. So I actually started like SQL and Python in my first company. And you don't need to know have these skills per se to be a data analyst, but it's good to have these skills. SQL you need to know, but Python you don't need to know that much, is what I've noticed.
Oh, so as you're saying, so do they have some certain training for Python or other tools, or do they expect you to know it before you join?
So, when I joined my first company as a fresher, they didn't expect me to have this knowledge. Like, so we had a boot camp actually. So, we had a boot camp for around 6 months where they actually taught us SQL, they taught us Python, they taught us, and at the end of it, we had like a capstone sort of a project where we had to put together all of our learning. So, we had to create a project and demonstrate it in front of the whole, team, and you had to basically utilize the skills that you learned over the period of 6 months. So we had to do everything from scratch. So we had to scrape the data, and then we had to build a story behind it and actually present it. That was a good exercise, and I would suggest that for all of you who want to become data analysts. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a fresher. Usually I see jobs where they expect 2 years of experience, but if you are a fresher and if you are out of college, I feel like you need to first do projects that demonstrate your skill as good data analyst. So you can do any project that you want. For example, there's some good data about like NASA's data, or there is you can actually analyze your own data. So what I did as one my capstone project in my first company was that I actually took my Instagram data, I used my Google data, Google search data, and I used every like those sort of data, and I actually created like a visualization to show my usage on Instagram or my usage on Google, and what is the most commonly type of things that I search for and all of that. It was a little bit too personal, but yeah, it really helped.
That sounds actually interesting because a lot of times what we do is we're searching for projects and project ideas outside the world, and what you did was completely innovative because you actually analyzed something that you do on a daily basis. So yes, um, Tanisha, as you were mentioning that you were always against, or you did not want to do programming, or so how is it that you chose the field of data analyst and not others that are there in the tech domain?
Right. So, so as actually this went back into when I was in engineering, and I really didn't know the whole thing about programming. Like right now, I have a better understanding of it. But at that point, we had like C, C++, and everything, and I was kind of intimidated with the whole thing. So I never paid much attention to it. Like I just like swept it under the rug, sort of a thing. So I never wanted to go into anything that was software development because I knew I had to use coding, right? So I tried to avoid. So when in our last year, when we had placements, I did not sit for any of the companies that came for software development positions because I knew that I did not want to do that. So I tried to look out only for the companies that came for like data analysts or business analysts. And actually, there were like only 4 or 5 companies that came to our college. So luckily, I got into like two of them and I landed one. Yeah.
That's great. So as you were saying that there were not a lot of opportunities for data analysts on campus. So did you try finding off campus as well, or were you more into that you want to explore the 4 opportunities that you have right now, and then see if nothing works from this, then you'll see something off campus?
Yeah, that was actually my thought process at that time. And the thing is that, like, so our placement season started in July, and I actually didn't sit for any of the companies that came for software development positions. So that literally eliminated like 99% of the companies that came. And I actually got placed at the very end of my final semester. So it was a lot of panic. It was a lot of like looking at everyone else and being like, okay, they have jobs and I don't. But I didn't. I stuck with it, and I was just like, okay, see, I want a data analyst position, so I'm not going to like settle for anything else. Let me just wait it out, and in case I don't get an offer at the end of this year, then I'll start looking for like off campus. So that was my thought process.
That's great. I think persistence has its way, and it always leads to some successful results. Just in like in your case. So I want to know that, since as you said that even the as we all know, I believe that the resources and the guidance for data analysts is much lower than that of for software development or software engineering. So how did you manage to prep for your on-campus placements of data analyst and along with your final semester?
Final sems in engineering colleges are really peaceful. Like there's not much work. Also, the prep began before that itself. And so one more thing that I want to mention is that the companies that come for data analyst positions to colleges, they don't actually expect you to know data analysis because they understand that those are not courses that are taught in the college, right? So they don't expect you to know data analysis, and they have their boot camps for freshers and everything. So for me, the rounds were mostly, the first round was an aptitude test, and the I had like two technical interviews where they asked about my final year project and like SQL basics, and then we had like the final round. So there was no data analysis in the whole thing. They just wanted to know your thought process behind it, and they just wanted to understand your aptitude skills. So for all the freshers, you don't really need to know data analysis. They don't expect you to know it. They just want to see if you have the critical thought process, if you know how to explain stuff, if you know your steps, and if you know SQL, obviously, along with like the aptitude part of it. So
That's interesting. And you mentioned about a round where they asked you about your final year project. So was that project related to SQL or what was that project about? And how many such projects did you have? And how many projects do you suggest everyone to have in order to qualify for these rounds?
with the final year project, I actually did something that was not at all related to data analysis. I did speech language processing. So the final year project had nothing to do with data analysis, but they basically ask you to explain your final year project because they want to see the thought process behind it. They want to see if you're able to communicate really well the data that is present, and that is very important as data analysts to be able to communicate what you have created, right? So because mostly we usually interact more with like the leaders in the company, for example the boards. So we need to have good presentation skills, we need to have good language, and we need to be able to translate the data into insights. So those are some of the skills that they look for when they ask you to explain your final year project. And apart from that, they have like a completely different round for like SQL and DBMS concepts and those sort of things. But what I would suggest is that if you're really clear that you want to become a data analyst or a data engineer, there are many projects out there on GitHub or Lead Code, for example, where you can find these projects and you can do it by yourself. Or like I mentioned, you can scrape data from anywhere and you can create your own project. So you do the end to end. So when you scrape the data, you're cleaning the data, you're processing the data, you're preparing the data, and then you put it in any sort of data visualization software, and then you explain it. So that is the whole That is the whole process for to be a data analyst, right? So if you're very sure that you want to be a data analyst, then this is the process that I would suggest you to follow. Start doing projects by yourself, and this should be something of your interest. For example, when I did my project on my social media, it was more about like my thought process was to it was to show a digital heartbeat, to show how much I'm over the internet, how much uh, it takes off my time, how I wanted to reduce my time spent on the internet. So I just created a whole visualization by using my own data to show how, where I'm using what time, at what time of the day I'm using more of social media, that sort of thing. So whatever topic that you guys are interested in, I would suggest that just run with it. Like take the data, get the data, visualize it, and you will be surprised at the sort of insights that you get yourself. So
Yes, I think in the end, what matters is that whatever thing you've done, you're able to explain it well, because as freshers, some of us tend to copy projects or make difficult projects in order to impress employers. But do you think that that takes us anywhere?
so like it depends upon which domain you're applying for. So software development and everything that also has like front end, back end, and it has a lot of NLP and everything, right? Data science. So it depends upon the domain that you're applying for. So if you're applying for front end, if you have like a web development which has like good UI, UX, and all of that, that would impress your prospects more. And if you are a data analyst doing such projects that is end to end, would help your whoever is recruiting you understand that okay, you know the concepts. So it depends mostly on which domain you're applying to. So based on that, if you do your final year projects, that would impress um, the companies.
Right. And being, data science, or being in this field, where did you find the right resources from, and what were your go-to sites or resources?
So mostly HackerRank, and there's something called W3W schools. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but those are some of the resources, and like Udemy and a lot of I follow like some of these data engineers like Seattle Data Guy and all of that. So they bring out really good posts and bring out really good videos which help you understand it. And before there was not much information about data analysts as compared to software engineers, but right now I've noticed that there's a lot of resources. There's a lot more um, people coming up with posts and stories about this. So I feel the information is present, but these would be some of the resources that I've looked at. Coursera is also another one, and yeah, so these are some of the courses that I've looked at.
And do you believe that it would have the process of of learning about data analytics would have been easier if you would have purchased the course, or if you would have taken some guidance, or was it as fruitful while being on this journey of self-learning?
Mm, so my 4 years of engineering honestly was just a waste of time. I did not learn anything from my engineering. So um, if you have interest, you can learn anything, is what I follow. So I didn't have any interest in telecom and I never learned anything there. But with data analysis, I had interest. And during that boot camp of 6 months that we had at my company, that's when I did all my learning. So my learning was never through through college per se. It was more about in the job, through boot camps, through learning by myself. So I feel self study would does help a lot of people, and then putting that into projects. So if you just learn and if you just go through resources, that isn't enough. So you need to, if for example you're learning SQL, you need to go join HackerRank, solve some problems. And if you're learning Tableau, there's something called Makeover Mondays that they release data sets every Monday. And so you get those data sets, you create visualizations, and you post it on the forum, and you get a lot of feedback. So learning isn't enough, learning and doing is enough. But if you have interest for something, then you can definitely learn it without any sort of guidance.
That's actually very such a great point, that learning is not enough. Learning and doing something that you like, that's the main part. Very insightful indeed. So I want to know that what did the interview process look like for you in different companies? Did they vary over the same? And what were the expectations that they had?
Right. So as a fresher out of college, I've mentioned that like it was mostly an aptitude test, two technical rounds. One was SQL and DBMS concepts, and the other one was just about your final year project, just your thought process, just how you explain it, just everything about that, how well you know it also. And the last was an HR round, right? Then I changed my company after 2 years of being at the first company, which was user ready. I changed to Bidgely, and in Bidgely, the first round was actually a hacker rank round where there was two Python coding questions, and the remaining was just like the aptitude, normal aptitude. And then after that, I had two technical rounds where they spoke about, they asked me about SQL, Excel, those sort of tools. And then was the HR round. So if you know, so to be a data analyst, if you know SQL, if you know Python, if you know DBMS concepts, I think that is enough because they don't expect you to know any tech stacks as such. If you know this three and you are able to apply it well, and additional knowledge of like some visualization software tool like Tableau, Power BI would just boost up your resume more. But these three would I would consider as the foundations for being a data analyst.
That's interesting. And what about the knowledge of data structures and algorithms? Have they do they play a role in cracking job interviews, or is it more for software development positions?
As much as I've noticed, no, it doesn't pay. It doesn't. We don't use that in data analyst positions. It's mostly for software developers. I mean, it's good to know, but yeah, we don't use it.
That's nice. So now I would like to actually know that do you think that cracking a job while you were a fresher would have been easier if you would have done an internship in data analysis?
No, actually, they don't look at your internships that much. Software development positions do. They do look at your internships and all a lot. But for me, the data analyst companies that I applied to, that was ZS Associates. Then there was User Ready. Then there was another Fractal Analytics. So those companies, they don't look at your internship much. They honestly look at your skills. So they look at your SQL skills. They look at your basics, so that is more of what they look at. So yeah.
Okay. And what about hello? Am I audible? Okay, okay. I apologize. So, Tanisha, I would like to know that a lot of us believe that there are comparatively less opportunities for freshers in this field, and people expect you to be an experienced person of at least 1+ year. So, what would you like to say about that? Is it a myth or is it actually a reality for off-campus opportunities, especially?
Yes, it's not a myth. It's actually true that they do expect you to have like 2+ years of experience, but they are like in colleges, right? They do come for data analyst positions. It might be very few, like 5 companies or 6 companies at max, but they do come for um, they do come to hire students, right? So what I would suggest is that when these companies come, pay extra attention to them. So have these projects ready to demonstrate it and be able to explain it really well, that is from end to end. And maybe try to explain more of the data engineering part because that kind of impresses them more. But yeah, so have these projects ready, like 4 to 5 projects, and when these companies come, just put in more into them, because it's very few. We have very few roles for freshers as compared to people with experience. So if you have these projects ready, and you are well knowledge in like SQL and Python and DBMS concepts, that would impress them, and that would totally get you a job. So that is one way that you can go, where you can apply to these 5 to 6 companies that come to your college. And the other thing is that in off campus also, if you have projects, those really help. And in off campus, maybe try to get an internship first and then change into a data analyst, or you can try and get in some other position and then change to a data analyst, because there's a lot of movement within companies that happen, which I've noticed. They do not like they try to reduce the attrition rate, so they don't prefer employees leaving, so they allow you to move within teams. So if you're really interested, and if you don't have a data analyst like job present, then you can actually join in as another role and then shift within the company.
Okay, all right. I would actually now want to know about your future prospects, and I would like to know that as a data analyst, would you be in this job role only, or would you move to some other positions in this domain?
So right now, even I'm confused about my future prospects. But I was considering masters in information systems. So that gives you the whole concept, like the whole idea basically about information. It's not just like being a data analyst, but it gives you more knowledge about that. So that is one thing that you can go for, like a masters in information system or masters in business analytics. That is one way. But no, I don't want to stay as a data analyst. I actually want to move into like a managerial position. So maybe like a program manager, or um, like a sort of like a manager role for data analysis. This is not where I would like to stop. So those are my
Right.
thoughts.
All the best to you for your future prospects, and I know for sure that you'll know better ahead what you want.
Yeah.
So I want to now know that there people have a lot of confusion between certain positions like data analyst, machine learning engineer, data scientist. So how would you like to clear this thing out for us?
Right. Okay. So the one thing that is common between all the three things. So if I consider business analyst is also one of the things that people are confused about. Business analyst, data analyst, data scientist, and ML engineer. Like ML engineer falls under data scientist. But yeah, so these three would be so the one thing that's common between all three would be that you need to be very good with your data engineering skills. So you'll need to be very good with like processing your data, right? And business analysts and data analysts is mostly synonymous, like they're used like it's the same basically. So for a data analyst or a business analyst, you need to be able to um, take business so you need to be able to take business questions. For example, if a manager wants to know the number of sales that has happened in different parts of the country, so you need to take that business question and develop and use the data that is present and create insights. So you need to basically answer the questions, and you need to be able to present it to a board of people. But for data scientists or ML engineers, they basically create models of the data to predict data, or to predict analysis, or to develop some sort of insights as models. But they don't have that, like they don't need to present it or anything like that. They just need to like develop models around it and be able to like predict future sort of data sets. For example, if in my company itself, like we use AI algorithm to basically disintegrate your total consumption to appliance level consumptions without having a meter associated with every appliance. For example, I'll give you an example. So every month, if we use around like 1000 kilowatt of energy, we have no idea which appliance is using what, right? So the data scientists are mostly responsible for creating code or creating models to show which appliance is using how much. But data analyst, that is me, I bring in the data, I run the models that the data scientists have already created, and I analyze the data, and I bring in like I basically weave a good story about the data. So I analyze the data and then I bring it to the clients. So that is my role, while the data scientist role is to basically keep developing algorithms to better to give better insights.
Right, and as a data analyst, what all roles do you interact with on a day-to-day basis in your job?
Right, on a day-to-day basis with my team, obviously, with the data scientists, data science team as well, because we need to keep telling them what improvements they need to make to their models after we analyze the data. So my team, the data science team, and also the direct, like the board of directors, because we need to show our results to them. We need to keep them in the loop as well. So these three things, and sometimes the clients.
And what do you think which soft skills have helped you in a better collaboration with your teammates and with people outside your team?
Soft skills, I feel like you need to be able to understand what you're doing really well to be able to communicate it. Also, like thinking before speaking, so that would be one more thing, and just having a good command over English and good command over what you're trying to say. So before you talk to like directors, you need to be able to collect your thoughts clearly, because it can be intimidating and everything. So collect your thoughts, jot down your points, jot down the main points so that you don't miss out anything, and then communicate them in a way that is very easy for managers with no tech experience to understand. So they do not understand how you've done the whole data cleaning, data processing, everything. They don't understand all of that, but what they understand is that what answer you're giving to their business question. So you need to be able to very clearly explain that. So yeah.
Uh, you mentioned that thinking before speaking, and I think we have underestimated this soft skill for a long time, but it is as important as any other soft skill. So, yes, I think that is it from my side. Thank you so much, Tanisha, for telling us all about you, your job, and your career decisions. Uh,
Thank
Now, I would like to take some questions from the audience out there. You all can either unmute yourself or you can write your question in the event discussion channel. We'll wait for a minute or so. Um, so we have a first question, and he says that I want to know why you chose data analyst and not data scientist or ML engineer role.
So honestly, I was interested in being a data scientist, but I haven't really I haven't really gotten all the skills to be a data scientist. So you need a lot of skills to be that, and I do want to look at that as a future prospect as well. But this is just a stepping stone for me into the data science position, because data analyst is the first path, and then the next would be data scientist. So just an additional um, couple of skills needed to be a data scientist. So that I am looking at that as my future prospect, but for now it's just to be the data analyst.
And I believe that there are even less opportunities for freshers as data scientists comparatively.
Yeah, there are. They really need you to have that experience. But again, projects really help. So if you want to be a data scientist, like develop an algorithm or a model based on any data set that you have in on the internet, and try to do the result. Like basically, if you want to predict the weather, what is the weather going to be in Bangalore, for example, in the next 2 weeks, try to develop an algorithm based on the previous data set, and that will basically show your skill set to an employer, and yeah, it'll impress them.
Right. And we have a counter question to that, and it says, what other skills you need as data scientist?
So, for data scientists, again, the one thing that's common that I've mentioned is the whole data cleaning processing part. So, that is common between all the data analysts, data science, and business analyst positions. For a data scientist, you'll need to know a lot of coding. So, you'll need to know more coding as compared to being a data analyst. So, you need to understand NLP. You need to understand um, the computer vision, like those sort of topics under data science. So like in Python also there are different sections that you need to be able to learn. So you need to have a lot more coding skills as compared to a data analyst.
Right. We have one more question, and it says, can you suggest sites to gather sample data for projects?
Sure. So, one way is that you can scrape data from any website, and you can scrape data using like Beautiful Soup or any data scraping websites. Also, if you Google, you can get it. So, for example, if you're interested in seeing Zomato's data, you can actually scrape the data from their websites. Or if you want to know your orders in Swiggy, how many times you've ordered in the last month or so, you can actually scrape the data. So it depends upon your interest. The one way you can do is that you can do it based on interest, like what you want to see. And the other way is that there are many platforms like Kaggle or Tableau, Makeover Mondays, those sort of websites where you get a lot of data sets. So Kaggle and like in Tableau, they send Makeover Monday every Monday they send a data set. So that is also something you can look at. And they have like different events. So they have Makeover Monday, Workout Wednesday, and they basically send data sets every all of those days. So you can see that.
Thank you.
Those are some new suggestions. I've heard about Tableau Makeover Mondays for the first time, and I'm definitely gonna try it. So yeah, thank you. Yes, we have another question, and it says, why are you doing your master's in information analysis and not a general master degree?
I what do you mean by a general master's degree? Like your master's has to be specific to one field, right? Like, do you mean master's in computer science, something like that?
Yes, he means that.
Okay. So again, I don't want to do my master's in computer science because I don't want to be an SDE. I am interested in this field, and I feel like a master's would really progress my career ahead. It'll give me that traction that I need. So, and masters in information system or a masters in business analytics and masters in data analytics. See, there's a lot of prospects. So you from there you can become like a manager. You can become the manager of analytics, for example, or you can become a data scientist as well. So these sort of masters will help me progress in the field that I am looking at. So I don't want to do a general masters. I think a more specific masters would help me to get into the domain that I want to. So
Yes, and I think it makes sense since you are set to become something in this field. If you were confused about which domain you wanted to go to, then maybe a general master's degree would have been better. But since you already know about it, a specific master's degree makes more sense.
right, yeah.
I have, some counter questions to these questions, and I would like to know that do you think that you should have done your master's degree before getting any job experience, or is it better this way?
I feel like there are again pros and cons to both of them. Like doing your masters after BE is a good way to just complete studying once for all and then start working, which is a good thing. But having the work experience, it kind of makes you aware of what you actually want. So you get that industry knowledge, right? You get how it works in the industry. You understand, okay, what a data analyst does or what a software development engineer does. And I've met a lot of people who after working has not liked that field and they wanted to change. So working and actually having that industry knowledge makes you understand what you actually want to do and what you don't want to do, so that is a good thing. So for example, if I did my BE in telecom, right, and I didn't like telecom, so I worked as a data analyst. And now if I don't like being a data analyst and I want to shift to something else, like I want to be an SDE, then I can do my masters to further, like I can do my masters in SDE instead of continuing my masters in information science if I don't like it. So it helps you really think about what you would want to do as a career.
That's a really interesting perspective, and I would like to know that since you are looking for master's degree, um, what do you think is a better option, India or abroad?
Mm, um, both are good, but then since I want to have that experience of living by myself abroad and just seeing the culture there, just all of that, that's why I would want to go for my masters abroad. But India is also a very good option. I'm not sure that much about masters in information system. Like abroad, there's a lot of scope for that, and there's a lot of people that join that, and there's a lot of career after that, right? But I haven't heard of masters in information science or business analysis, that sort of masters in India. So it's mostly for a change of scene also, and earning in dollars.
Yes, I feel that in India, this field in masters particularly is still gaining traction, and that is why specific master's degree related to information science, there are less options available right now.
Yeah, for like business analysis or like data analysis or information science, technology, the less.
Good options, right? Well, I think we end our session talk with this. Thank you so much, Tanisha, for helping us understand your job and all about it, giving us tips and telling us new things which we can utilize to get a better outlook about data analytics. So, yes, thank you so much.